And real quick, the NBA games, we talked about it earlier. As soon as these lines came out, they bet the under. They bet the under. They bet a little more unders. And now it's like the public's betting those totals under. Those numbers are gone. If you do not like the over in either of these two games, you got to leave it alone. Like, even if these games stay under, they're just not good bets. Like, you missed the good numbers. They've moved 2, 3, 4, 5 times. If you like the under already, what were you waiting for? Why would you go under 219 when you could have went under 224, 23, 22, 21? Like, those are just not betting from any position of strength. So obviously, the sharp bettors are on the under, and what the books are trying to do is attract over money to limit that risk, because they are one-sided. Even the public's betting those unders as well. That's why they've moved so significantly. Now, in Major League Baseball, we got a couple dogs. That's where they like to bet, and that's what they've been doing. 901 immediately. The Cubs plus 115. The Cubs plus 110. Same thing with Washington. Washington plus 105. Washington even money, and then even laid minus 105 on the Washington side. Miami 906 plus 135. Plus 140 and plus 135 against Arizona. Also went over 8 all the way to minus 125. Then when it got to 8.5, laid the minus 110 to go over 8.5. Those are the ones I love the most, because they were willing to lay heavy chalk to go over a particular number. Then when they adjusted it a half a run and added vig to it, they still bet it. So it tells you that opening number was way off. Add 915, Kansas City against the Yankees, plus 155, plus 145, plus 140. So they really like the Royals in that game. And it's another situation where at 8.5, it started out at plus money. They bet that. They took the even money, then bet it all the way up to minus 130 to go under 8.5, Prez. They went to 8 at minus 105. They still bet it. So those are the two totals that stuck out to me the most, where you got follow through and laying heavy chalk at the first number, and then laying some chalk for the second number as well. Again, those tend to have the best long-term results. And last but not least, 919. What was that? 919. LA Angels. Yeah, LA Angels, minus 110, minus 115, minus 120. Rarely are they betting those road favorites, but that's one of the road favorites that they did bet to get past Texas today. That's what's gotten down early. But again, a lot of baseball starts coming in later in the day. And lately I've been seeing even 2 hours before first pitch. And I thought it was because they're waiting for the confirmation of the lineups. After talking to someone late last night, that's not the reason. The reason is a lot of these credit shops, okay, they're not putting out baseball lines until later in the day. In fact, the out that I have that gives me the biggest limit that I could get down 5 dimes on a baseball total doesn't post his baseball lines until about 3 hours before first pitch. He puts out the sides first, 3 hours before first pitch, and 2 hours before first pitch, he puts out the totals. So he's willing to take big bets where other ones, they'll take nickels on overnights. They'll take a dime the day of. But this guy's telling you hours before, I think the line's efficient. You could bet up to 5 dimes on even a MLB total. So that's why pay attention to a lot of those late line movements, because that's what these bigger groups are doing. To get enough money down to where it makes sense, they rather wait and even sometimes give up some EV, because they're going to do it with quantity instead. Being able to place bigger bets at smaller edges, that's how they make up for it.
Yeah, on the Eastern game, Bulls Heat, we opened that game 1, Bulls -1, and we've gotten to Bulls -2 on that. So obviously we've seen some pretty good Bulls money come in. The totals really fluctuated. When we opened, we were at 222. We got down to 218.5. Now you've seen the bump back up to 220 this morning. So it's kind of hit its low point, and now they've bought back on the over, which is rare because they bet all these playoff games, and especially all these do-or-die in-play games, under. So we'll be rooting for the Heat in the game. That could flip, but obviously we have more money on Chicago. When you look at the second game, really the total is the big move. The total has moved 4 points to the under. We're now sitting at 214 on that when we opened at 218. Kings have been pretty steady at 4.5, 5. The main thing on that game for us is the Kings are in a lot of money line parlays. So we'll be looking to try to knock out Sacramento. If Dallas can win that game outright, it will knock a lot of the parlays out today that are connected to the other NBA game and all the baseball games.
All right, I'm going to go with Davion Mitchell over 9.5 points tonight. When Miami has their full lineup, it just opens up more opportunities for him. So I pulled these numbers. When he plays with Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo, and so this means he's coming off the bench. So we're going to take a player prop on a guy that's coming off the bench. So he's gone over in this situation 10 out of the last 11 games, and his numbers are pretty amazing. He gets 33 minutes per game. He gets 8.5 field goal attempts, and he's shooting 56% from the field. He makes 1.8 threes per game, and he's averaging 12 points. That's way above this 9.5 point number. And point guards, this is a dream matchup against Chicago. Point guards score 26 points per game against Chicago. So I think Davion Mitchell, I don't know, maybe does he get to 33 minutes? Maybe, maybe not. If he does, I think he flies over this total. Even if he gets 27, 28 minutes. I think the defense is bad enough. I think the points are going to be there. I think the attempts are going to be there. So I'll take Davion Mitchell over 9.5 points. And for the golf play, I'm going to take a look at Scotty Scheffler under 1.5 bogeys in round one. So Prez, this course is very short. They're at Harbor Town. It's like 7,200 yards. It's right on the coast. Normally there's wind. That's the big factor with this course. There is no wind this week. The greens are going to be soft. It's a short course. These guys are going to smoke this tournament. There is going to be some ridiculously low scores. And Scotty Scheffler only had one bogey in his first round last year. He may go no bogeys with how short this course is. These fairways, they're a little bit narrow, but the greens are small, but they're very soft, and these guys go out in the morning. Scheffler under 1.5 bogeys in round one. That's tomorrow. Davion Mitchell over his 9.5 points. That's my contribution to get us to 200,000 subscribers. Cameron Saaiman, there's UFC is off this week, but PFL is this weekend, so we will have PFL plays after weigh-ins. Get on this UFC play for next week. Now, the reason I'm doing it is because the line is moving. Cameron Saaiman opened up at like plus 120. He's now down to even money. This is fading the Contender Series debutant, who I don't think is UFC ready. And this has been a cash cow this year. So Malcolm Wellmaker got a really nice knockout on Contender Series, but he was fighting kind of a nobody. Cameron Saaiman has lost 2 fights in a row, but they were in the UFC. And before that, he had won a couple fights in the UFC. Saaiman is UFC battle tested. His last loss was to Peyton Talbot. That's a real fighter. Wellmaker is a prospect with a lot of talent, but he needs so much work. His striking defense is bad. He holds his hands really low. Saaiman is a striker who can take advantage. This is one of those lines that the sharps are already on it. When you see a plus 120 get down to even money the week before the event, the smartest MMA bettors on the planet know what's going to happen in this fight. Cameron Saaiman is going to close at a favorite in this one. So grab the UFC veteran Cameron Saaiman over Malcolm Wellmaker, the Contender Series debutant.
Look, I know they're in a must-win mode, and I don't love betting must-win here. But this is a team that won a bunch of games of late. I know they lost a crucial game against Chicago 2 nights ago, but this is a team that was outside the playoffs looking in not a month ago, and then they put down a really big run. So I think we've seen their makeup and emotional fortitude. This is a team that has won many must-win games along the way. Not only that, but they're playing a Carolina Hurricanes team who we just saw played the Toronto Maple Leafs and didn't even show up. Rob Brindamore is bringing his son into this game. I'm not even kidding. This is the nepotism angle. Skyler, if he was good enough to be on this team, he would have been on this team 2 games ago. Carolina does not care about this game. The form is going to be hopping. The atmosphere is going to be wild. I think Montreal wins this game, and they are plus 100. There is my contribution.
We got play-in games, not quite playoff games. And what do we see in elimination games in particular? We see the star players usually log more minutes. That's going to influence their points totals, the rebounds totals, and such. So I got 2 player props, both overs. First one for the Kings versus Mavs. And I got Anthony Davis. His rebound total sits at 11.5. I like him to go over his rebound total. His rebounding numbers, his numbers overall are down in the second half of the season, but that's directly in correlation with his minutes. His last game, he played 30 minutes against the Raptors, 23 points, 13 rebounds. If he doesn't play more than 30 minutes tonight, it's either because it's a big-time blowout or he's not healthy. He's supposed to be in the lineup. He's supposed to be healthy. They need him. It is an elimination game. I expect him to play closer to 40 minutes than 30, and that should translate into more than 11 and a half rebounds. And then with the Chicago-Miami game, we're going to look at Josh Giddey. And to be honest, I was looking for a player in this particular game to go on an under, but I was looking at Giddey's number. It's sitting at 18 and a half, and it's easy to say that's higher than his regular season averages, but the guy's averaging 21.2 points since the All-Star break. He's full of confidence after that half-court buzzer beater that sent LeBron and the Lakers back to the locker room to cry themselves to sleep, which I love. And he's averaged 26 points per game in 3 games against Miami this year. I like Giddey to go over 18 and a half points in this elimination game.
This one's a tougher one out of the two today. If you look at the Heat side, they did lose 4 of their last 6 games, and that includes a loss to the Bulls. The Bulls, they closed out pretty strong. 6 of their last 7 were wins. The one loss was against the Cavs. So I feel like the momentum is on the Bulls side. The only issue that I have with this little winning streak that they had, if you look at the teams that they faced in those wins, they had Philly, Washington, Charlotte, Toronto, Portland. So not really great teams there. So that kind of, I guess, brings down that win streak a little bit. But if you look at Giddey, he's played really well to close out the season. Pretty much like after the All-Star break, almost a triple-double threat every single game. If you look at how they did post All-Star break, they scored 121 and a half points per game. It has to do with Giddey. Also has to do with the pace that they play with. On the Heat side, I feel like their defense is a little bit more trustworthy, but there are some weaknesses the Bulls can take advantage of. So if you look at the post All-Star break numbers, right, 5th in shot frequency in the paint for the Bulls, but the Heat were 25th in defending the paint, paint field goal percentage allowed. And then also the above the break 3 is another aspect of the game. 5th in frequency for the Bulls. The Heat were 22nd in defending it. So a lot of things are pointing towards the Bulls side to win this game. My issue is Miami does have that playoff coaching advantage here with Spoelstra. And also, like I said, even though they have that little winning streak towards the end of the season, those wins weren't that impressive. I mean, they had, like I said, Philly, Washington. None of those guys were in the playoffs other than obviously the Heat and the Cavs. So for me, this didn't make my premium card, but I would look towards the Bulls. And also one thing that Gianni said earlier, with the total coming down as far as it has from the open, I see it at 219, the lowest, but it has come back to 220 at some places this morning. I think the buyback is because most people think that the total has come down. Well, it was 5 points from the open, so a little bit too much. People are trying to buy back on it. Yeah, I mean the total has shot down maybe like 10 points from the open, so I probably wouldn't touch that at all unless you like the over, like what Johnny said earlier. But I think this is a little bit of a different matchup just because if you look at the Mavs post All-Star break, they were having some injury issues. A lot of their bigs were out, and AD's healthy, Lively, Gafford. I mean, that's going to be a huge advantage on the boards and the defensive side of the ball for them. They're going to slow the pace down. That's going to be some trouble for the Kings because they don't have Malik Monk. And obviously, with Fox gone and all that stuff, the backcourt is a little bit different. Malik Monk is not being on the court is an issue. If you look at the season stats, even with Fox on the team prior to the All-Star break, the Kings are just 4-13 straight up, 5-12 ATS, just 2-7 straight up. 2-7 against the spread. When they're favored in that instance. And then after the All-Star break, this is just another thing that talks about Monk. When he's in the lineup, they average 116 points per game. When he's not in the lineup, 109. So you could tell that offensive efficiency comes down a bit. And then we just talked about how the bigs are going to impact this defense. On the Mavs side, a lot more. AD, when he's on the court, their defensive rating is about 110. When he's off the court, it's about 119. So that's just a huge impact that I see. Obviously, I agree with the total coming down because of that. But like I said, at 114 or whatever it is, you really lost a lot of value there. But other things to think about as far as the side goes, AD is such a great player, both offensively and defensively. He's going to open things up for the three-point shooters on this Dallas team. There's a lot of things that I could talk about as far as the stat wise too, because Kings defense not that great. One of the biggest things they really struggled with post All-Star break, above the break threes. They allowed opponents to shoot 40% from the above the break threes, and then also 23rd in defending in the paint. So a lot of things the Mavs can take advantage of in this one. I would look towards their side. Whether it's them, I actually think they have a chance to win this one outright.